Yeah, I'm Damon Kennedy, and I'm the president of Midland College, and I'm excited to be here on the catwalk.
The Catwalk is proud to partner with Second Story Co-working in downtown Midland. With shared Wi-Fi and free coffee refills, Second Story can help connect you with like-minded business leaders. Visit them today at secondstory.co. There's a powerful story behind every brand. The vision is to make storytelling easier so you can grow your business. Connect today at thecatwalkmediagroup.com. Follow The Catwalk on all your favorite social media platform apps. Watch new content on YouTube or listen in on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and on iHeartRadio. Well, welcome everyone to another edition of the Catwalk Show. I'm so grateful that you're here. Big shout out to Chris over on the controls, Second Story, for the great studio space. And I am pleased to welcome into the studio Damon Kennedy from Midland College. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
I had said off air that do I address you as doctor, and you're like, no.
No, Damon. Damon's my name.
Damon's your name. So I
it.
may call you doctor at some point in there. You can just correct me.
That's okay, yeah.
Before we get started, I ran into somebody today who was in a history class of yours 20 years ago, and they asked, are you going to ask about the ponytail? So I'm going to ask if that's okay. How long have you been growing that, and why did you choose to do that?
It's a funny question because I actually grew up in Snyder, and it, we're talking 70s and 80s at a time when the Scurry County was still dry. Male students couldn't have long hair. They couldn't have facial hair. They couldn't have tattoos. They couldn't have earrings. We couldn't wear shorts to school. And so when I graduated high school in 1992, I just started letting my hair grow, and I haven't really cut it since. It's been managed, I guess, and maintained, but it's been this way since then.
Since 92.
Since
have you always kept it pulled back, or
always keep
has
it
anybody
pulled back.
seen you with it out?
My wife and kids, and that's about it. Yeah, I always keep it pulled back. People often ask me, do you ever let it down?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't know why. It's people ask me if I've ever thought about cutting it, and no, I don't think about cutting it. Frankly, I view the hair as who I am in some ways. Right. I don't know if that's cosmic or universal or spiritual or whatever it is, but it's just who I am. I've been asked over the years if it was going to be a hindrance to my career, would I cut it? And I've always said no. If it's going to be a hindrance in my career, I need another career.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And for somebody who has no hair like me,
yeah.
I look at that and I'm so jealous because you did give away a little bit of your age there when you said you graduated in 92.
Correct.
High school.
I will turn 50 in April.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm approaching the milestone.
Yeah. Well, I will be celebrating this next year my 8th anniversary of turning 50.
Okay, very good. I'll remember that.
If that helps, if you can do math out there, then you know how old I am.
Yeah.
So also you mentioned something about your kids. They've seen you with the hair down and stuff, but I think if I'm not mistaken, you guys still do Life 360, right?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Tell me, do you get any bad rap on having your kids on 360, or is it for you?
It's both. I'll tell you, it started in a way you might not surprise you. Had a teenager being a teenager, and we thought it might be good to know at all times where the kids were, and you can do that anyway on iPhones. You can find my iPhone and track phones and do all that kind of thing. So initially, it wasn't really well received, but over time, both my daughters have become stalkers. And so it wasn't too many months ago, actually, we had some friends in town, and we had gone to an event, and time got away from us, and we were actually here downtown. And I got a text from my oldest daughter, who's 24 now, saying, "What in the world are you doing out at 1:45 a.m.?" So now they keep tabs on us. So
did you have a good excuse for why you were out at 1:40?
No, not really. Just lost track of time. Which, by the way, I'm surprised she didn't say, "Well, that's exactly what happened to me when I was 16."
Yeah,
She could have.
we
I
know that's
suppose.
not right.
Yeah.
Now, you're a Steelers fan too, is that
I
right?
am. That is correct.
And they're playing tonight.
They play the Browns tonight.
So, what do you think? Is this the year for the Super Bowl?
I have no idea. They're way overperforming. If you were to ask me right now, I probably know more than I should know about these games. But the Steelers historically are not good on Thursday night. I don't think Mike Tomlin's ever won a game on Thursday night,
It's true. Yeah.
and they tend to not play well when they're in Cleveland. And so the cards are probably stacked against them. And the Steelers are 8-2, and Cleveland's 2-8. So you just who knows?
Well, by the time this airs, we're going to know what
Yes,
happened
they
to
will.
them. Where did your love for the Steelers come from? Are you from Pittsburgh area?
I'm not actually born and raised in Snyder, as I mentioned a minute ago, but because it was the 70s and the 80s, we had a household divided. My dad and my little brother are Cowboys fans, and myself and my older brother are Steelers fans, and it's just always been that way. And it's been a fun kind of way to banter over time. It's a good connection to keep. Unfortunately, the two teams haven't been good at the same time in a long time. I think it's been the mid 90s the last time both teams were any good at the same moment. So,
favorite Steeler?
oh man, Jerome Bettis.
Really?
Yeah.
I would. If you gave me 5 guesses, I wouldn't have put in the top 5 there.
There was something about he's a bruiser, and I think one of the reasons I like the Steelers is I love big boy football and I like defensive football. Passing game's great, it's flashy, but it's a lot of fun just watching guys run over somebody else.
I know we've got over at UTPB, they have the lecture series, and coming in 2025, Terry Bradshaw is coming to speak at the Wagner. A little plug there. And I can't wait to go because I have a picture with Terry Bradshaw when he played for the Steelers. I'm wearing his shoulder pads and his helmet. Short story here. I had a family member who used to work for the Cowboys back when the Cowboys were a really good team and a franchise. And so we would go one game a year. And I remember going down when I was really young and got to meet Lynn Swan, and Bradshaw wore his shoulder pads stuff. So I'm going to take that picture with me. And I know he's put on more years, and I put on more years, but I think hopefully he'll get a kick out of that. So,
well, Lynn Swan is probably in my top 3, just for what it's worth. I don't know where I'd put Terry Bradshaw, but not quite that high, probably.
Well, let's jump into who you are. Most people know you as president of Midland College.
Sure.
But let's start back. I know you're from Snyder. Kind of walk me through growing up. When you went to college, I know tech is somewhere in there, so wreck them with that. But kind of walk me through that process.
Yeah, I grew up in Snyder, born in 1975. Small town, not a lot to do. My family lived a stone's throw from the high school with tennis courts, and so I grew up playing tennis. Still a sport that I love to play today. I don't get to as often as I would like. I'm also a little bit broken at nearly 50 years old, and so I have aches and pains I'm not accustomed to, and my mind and body aren't aligned. My mind says one thing and my body says another when it comes to playing tennis. But I grew up playing tennis and was really fortunate that my parents provided the opportunities for my younger brother and I to travel all over playing tournaments. Both my parents were public school educators. My dad was a elementary school principal. My mom was a counselor diagnostician until she retired. But without tons of resources, we were not hurting by any stretch of the imagination. But without a ton of resources, they made a lot of opportunities available to myself and my brothers. And so I actually started coming over to Midland playing in tennis tournaments when I was less than 10 years old. And it was humbling at times coming over here at 10 and 12 years old, playing in the Midland Tennis Association actually at the courts at Midland College, coming out. And, I'm a superstar in my 12-year-old mind, and I'm playing against a 70-year-old man who waxes me. It's a humbling experience.
Yeah.
But, I graduated high school in 3 years, and I tell this story because it's not a story of my brilliance. It's the opposite story. It's a story of a kid who wasn't thriving in an environment called high school and was not making great decisions, and had reached a precipice really of, you need to straighten some things out. You got a couple of paths in front of you, maybe 3. and 2 of those 3 aren't particularly good. So you might want to figure it out.
Right.
So one of my best friends at the time and I were probably not, maybe at that moment, not so good for each other, but we're still best friends today. Decided that we were going to go to Lubbock Christian High School for a summer and knock out enough credits so that we could graduate early. And so we did. And I left Snyder having graduated in 3 years, and I came here to Midland College, actually. So I was a student at Midland College for 2 years. And it was here that I met people that really turned me around, that were able to say some of the things that my parents were telling me that I wasn't hearing. They were able to push me in ways that I hadn't been pushed, and they were able to unlock a curiosity that high school didn't unlock for me. So Midland College, to be candid, is probably the thing that put me on a path that brings me to where I am right now. And I would have never thought I'd be a college president, but if you'd asked me in 1992 or 1993 what I was going to do, I would have had no idea. But again, it was people like Charles Simmons and Russell Goodyear, and both of those individuals have passed. Will Morris, interestingly, was a really important figure in my life in 92 and 93. He ended up hiring me at Midland College as a history professor. So it was a really fun experience for me. But I spent 2 years at Midland College, got my feet under me, found my curiosity, found my creativity, ended up going to UTPB, where I earned a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in history. And then I went from there to Texas Tech. Coming out of high school, Tech was the place I thought I would end up going, but ended up looking at other institutions, and my parents were never really thrilled about the prospect of me going too far or too fast. And so when I graduated high school, my girlfriend at the time and I moved to Odessa. She worked as a graphic designer because she had done really good things in UIL competitions and had an opportunity to go to work immediately after high school, which was the best decision she ever made. But we moved to Odessa, and you say to yourself, it probably doesn't make sense for a 17 and an 18-year-old to go straight out of high school and decide that they want to live adult lives when neither one of them had really been adults at that point. But it's now 2024, and we've been married since 1996 now, so it worked out.
Congratulations. Yeah. Wow. All right, I've got a question. There's a lot there to unpack. Why history? If all the things you could have studied, why did you take that road?
Honestly, I think I came by it naturally, and it's not something I really realized at the time. I think it was in the back of my mind, but my grandfather and great-grandfather were both amateur historians. Both of them physicians by trade. My great-grandfather had gone to the University of Texas Medical School, and my great-grandfather had gone to Duke Medical School, and my grandfather had gone to Johns Hopkins. Both were the University of Texas grads. If it were up to them, I would have been a University of Texas grad. But both of them were amateur historians, and my great-grandfather was actually the chair of the Texas State Historical Association, and wrote a number of books of history of medicine in Texas. And then my grandfather was a genealogist. And so between the two of them, published, I think, 5 books. And again, when I started really getting curious about the past and about what the past could teach us and about the relevance of the past, I think there was some of that in me I just wasn't really clear on at the time.
Now, tennis.
Yes.
Were you good?
I think so.
Yeah.
I
couldn't beat the 70-year-old man, though.
Well, not at 12.
Yeah.
I probably couldn't today either, I'll be honest with you. But yeah, I think I was pretty good. When I came over to Midland College, I thought at the time I'd really like to try to play tennis here, but it turns out they had just recently closed the tennis program. And so I continued to play for some years, and then it kind of slips away over time. You have kids and other obligations, and it just becomes a little more challenging to make the time. Like everything else, it just becomes challenge. I played varsity as a freshman, was highly competitive in a strong program. but only played 2 years in high school. To kind of circle back to the story about not being my best self at 16, 17 years old, I didn't have an opportunity to play longer than 2 years.
Right. When you only went for 3.
And I only went for
So,
3. Yeah.
I want to jump into kind of where you're at Midland College
Sure.
now. You were named the president in 2023, I believe. So you've been teaching as a history professor, instructor, all the way to president. What's that path been like for you?
It's been a remarkable journey. Started at the college in 2004 as an adjunct instructor in history. Came on as a full-time professor in 2006. In 2015, became the dean of social behavioral sciences and business. 2018, I became the vice president of instruction, and then, as you said, last summer, became the president of the college. I could have never predicted what was going to happen. Careers have their ups and their downs. I really loved teaching. I started off teaching at Tech as a graduate instructor. Really believed that was going to be my future. I enjoyed research and writing, enjoyed being in conferences and presenting new material to subject matter experts who could quiz you on it. I love this kind of dialogue. I love hard conversations. I love being challenged, and it in an intellectual way. I don't like
Sure.
physical confrontation or anything like that.
We're not going to fight today.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I don't think we would, but I loved it, and I thought that's what I wanted to do. But what I realized over time was how much I just love being with people and love being with students. And when I had the opportunity to come back to Midland, it wasn't first to Midland College, it was to the Petroleum Museum, where I worked as the archivist for about a year. And I came to a point then that I knew I had to wrap up a dissertation. I was in the process of finishing when I left Tech in 2003. That was a time of some pretty significant budget cuts in higher ed, and so I lost the position that I had. And I didn't finish my dissertation, but over time I came to realize, spent about a year not doing anything, came to realize I got to finish this thing. I've invested a lot of time and energy, and I'm so close. I've got to get it done. So I took a period of time off from work, and I was really fortunate to have a wife who was supportive of that and allowed me to do those kinds of things because I was the husband that was trying to do what I could do to help during the day with the kids, and probably didn't do enough if you were to ask her. And we'd put those girls in bed at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, and I tell the story. I don't know if this is a story for the catwalk or not, but in the period of the last couple of months that I wrote my dissertation, I was living on Killian's Irish Red and ginger snaps, which I would get in about 9 p.m. and really get to work and go to bed at 3 or 4 a.m. and then and roll out of bed in the morning, try to do what I could to take care of the kids. But I needed the time. Yeah. I have a couple of great pictures of the girls sound asleep, with their arms on the desk while I'm trying to write on the laptop. And so it was a fun time. Needless to say, I put on about 60 pounds. There was a time that I weighed about 230. There are pictures, and I just tell people it was a bad allergy attack, that I'd been stung by a bee.
That's a good excuse.
Yeah.
What was it like, Damon, when you got that call that you were the president?
It was nerve-wracking because when I applied for the position, I automatically in my mind predetermined a timeline. And I have to tell you, I was wrong every step of the way. Except the very last step. I had pinpointed the board meeting where I would know whether or not I was going to be the president. And when that meeting came, there was no announcement, and everybody who was close to me at the time stayed. There was an executive session, and so the decision was made. I guess not really a decision, but I guess it was a decision was made in executive session. No action, of course, being taken because there's a legal process behind that and a waiting period and all that kind of thing. But a decision was made. We didn't know it at the time, but everybody close to me had hung around thinking maybe they'd let us know. Well, not only did they not let us know, but none of the board members lingered, and they all just scattered as quickly as they could to their cars, and the mood just went south.
Oh.
And even mine, I thought, wow, I really. Now, mind you, I'd been wrong every step of the way, but I was still convinced I was going to be right on this one. So went home, and my older daughter was already off at college, and my younger daughter, I guess, was here for some reason or other, because she was at college too by then, and both of them are graduates at this point, so they had to be. We decided we were just going to go eat, so we went, ate, Dos Compadres, shameless plug.
Yeah.
Went home, and I changed my clothes, and I put on my earbuds, and I'm going to go mow the grass. Just going to mow the grass. I'm going to quit thinking about this. Can't do anything about it right now.
Sure.
And as I was putting in my earbuds, I got a phone call from the board chair, and he asked if I could come over to his house for a few minutes. And I knew I was going to find out.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you the amount of respect I have for this board. And so I knew they were going to tell me one way or the other. I was going to know before I got back home, whether it was positive or negative. And got over to Steve Kaiser's home and sat down, and he didn't waste any time. He didn't mince any words. Yeah. Stood up and shook my hand and offered me the job. And then we ended up talking for 2.5 hours. I had my wife on pins and needles, and my kids were like, what's going on? I'm sure they were live 360ing me to see, is he alive? What's going on? And so, I was told I had the position, but I couldn't announce that to the world. There was going to be 4 weeks until we went to another board meeting, and then there was going to be the 30-day cooling off period. And so I had this long wait before I could actually assume the position. And again, a period of about 30 days where nobody knew anything except my wife and kids.
Were you able to change from your mowing clothes to something nice to go over there?
Not really. I put on a pair of golf pants and a pullover, and that was about it. I just went over.
Yeah.
But yeah, it works out.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, you've seen a lot in that time that you were an adjunct professor all the way to being chosen as the president. What have you seen that you're most proud of over your time?
I think Midland College is a remarkable place. And I think Midland, Texas is a remarkable place. I say that all the time. A group of us worked really, really hard on this pre-K project for a number of years. And I've told that story over and over and over. And then it's an impossible dream for most community colleges to pull something like this off. And the reason for that is because those colleges are not planted in communities like Midland, where there's the level of generosity that we have here, the level of trust for our college. And so that's a question that's hard for me to answer, because I think everything that Midland College does is remarkable in its own way. I think we've been a rock in this community. I think we've been a key contributor in this community. I never set out to be a college president. And in fact, probably my greatest professional mentor, who now serves as my chief of staff, Dr. Dina Savage, she challenged me as a faculty member to consider an administrative position. And I told her no. I just didn't want to do it. I was enjoying being in the classroom. I was doing a lot of work with veterans. I loved where I was in my life. I loved where I was with my family in that moment. I wasn't sure it made sense with the age of my kids, but she I don't want to say she talked me into it, but she kind of talked me into it, and it changed the trajectory of my career. Wasn't, as a dean, ever thinking of being a VP. Was, as a matter of fact, a VP thinking of being a president, but not a president anywhere, a president here.
Right.
And there wasn't change in the air when I took the position, so it wasn't imminent that there was going to be an available position. And so held on doing things that I love to do at the college, and working with people that I love to work with, being in a community I love to be in, and had opportunities to be with my family. Steve Thomas, my predecessor, was really great about always saying your family comes first. And I took advantage of the chances that I had to be with them as often as I could and still get the job done. So it's been great.
What is it like to be president on the campus when you interact with students? I know I've gone to several schools. I've worked at Collin College. There are some presidents, some administrators that are hands-on. They're wanting to be involved with students. There's some that they're in their cave and they're never seen unless it's a publicity.
I
Where
got
do
you.
you land when it comes to interacting with students on the campus?
If I could, I would interact with students every single day, and I try as best I can to be out and about on the campus. It's difficult. It's really difficult in this period too at Midland College because things are happening so fast. But I spend a lot of time at nurse pinning ceremonies.
Mm.
I spend a lot of time with our Phi Theta Kappa students and honors students. My wife volunteered with PTK last year on a Don't Forget to Play project that they did. She and I have both traveled with our honors students, and one of the things that I miss most about the position that I'm in is that I don't get to interact with students as much as I would like. But we do the things that we need to do in terms of surveying students and sitting down in round tables with students and having the conversations where we can. We had a first generation fiesta a couple weeks ago or a week and a half ago, so I made a point to go out and visit with some of the students there. And so I do what I can. My schedule's crazy insane most of the time, though.
It's true. I'm just grateful that you carved out a little bit of time to be here.
No, I love it. This is
Does
great.
Midland College have a school fight song?
We don't.
We need that.
It's probably not a bad idea. I hate to think though that there might be one and I just don't know it.
And I looked, I perused the website quite a bit, and I'm like, I know there's great sports teams. There's not the football team or whatever, but there's been some great athletes come through Midland College, but I couldn't find a fight song there.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go speak somewhere, and you're being introduced as Dr. Kennedy, president of Midland College, do you have a walk-up song that you would want played?
You know what's funny about that is that it's been an ongoing conversation because we do convocation every fall and every spring, and it's supposed to be a festive event, and we have music playing, and I'm not sure what my walk-up song would be. I joke all the time that I'd like people to just surprise me with one. Because I like the mood to be light, so I don't need it could be Britney Spears. I wouldn't even care.
Really?
Yeah, it would as long as it was fun.
It's just not country. Right.
Surprisingly enough, I'm not. I do like country. I like Texas country and kind of garage band country. I don't like Nashville country. I don't like hybrid country where you have kind of the urbanized version of. I don't like commercial country.
Why does a student need to choose Midland College?
In an era where there's not a lot of confidence in higher education, I can tell you that when you come to Midland College, you're going to get what you need to succeed, whether your success is defined by transfer to a four-year institution like I did, or defined by the completion of a workforce credential and going and getting a great job in Midland or the Permian Basin that's going to pay you a wage that enables you to do the things you want to do in your life. So we're flexible and nimble enough to provide students with the things that they want and need, and we do it without breaking the student's bank. We offer free dual credit as an example. We just got a report today from our Association of Community Colleges that had a breakdown of how colleges throughout the state assess tuition and fees for their dual credit partners. And there was one of 50 community colleges in the state that doesn't charge a single cent for dual credit, and it's us.
Wow.
And so we do those kinds of things to make Midland College as enticing as we can. We launched an initiative for GED completers that they get their first credit course free. Want to give them a flavor for what Midland College can offer. And so we're going to do what we can do to ensure that our students get the things that they need out of our college.
We've had a conversation recently, and you've introduced me to some faculty members, some administrators, and we talked about vocational trades and how CTE is so important.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that a little bit about what your view is on that and what's coming, if you can share anything?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you struck a chord there. So when I became vice president of instruction in 2018, I remember distinctively in my very first instructional meeting saying, career and technical education is the future of Midland College. That is not to diminish the importance of transfer courses, general education courses, but the future of Midland College is CTE. And in that period of the last, well, it was the 5 years that I was in that position, we worked really, really hard to scour the data, to look at, you may remember the Priority Midland Initiative. Look at the data that Ray Perryman provided about the future growth prospects in Midland, the needed professions in Midland. We looked at what the Permian Strategic Partnership did in their Catalyst report, where they identified 21 key positions for the future of the energy sector in the Permian. And I literally, I'm a real big nerd, as probably won't surprise you. I literally took like graph paper and mapped these individual positions by skill, and then we started building instructional programs around those. And I've got to tell you, Midland College has great faculty across the board, but our career and technical education faculty, I learned this really clearly through COVID. They're the best of the best. And I would put our faculty, especially our CTE faculty, up against any college faculty in any organization in this state or any other state. They're awesome. And when we began to talk about CTE, the future of CTE, and really open the doors as wide as we could to our faculty to get creative, man, they did some really cool things. An example would be a couple of programs we've just recently launched. Natural gas compression. We're only the second college in the state doing that. We're doing a behavioral health technician certificate associates and potentially even a baccalaureate degree. We're the only community college in the state doing that, working closely with our industry partners, whether it's oil and gas or healthcare. So we've been doing a lot of the programmatic work for 5 years. And when I came into this position, what we started to do was to think about how we offer those new programs in the best possible way. And what I mean when I say that is, what are our facility needs? So we began several different projects as soon as I came into this position. One of them was a full facilities audit, because as I mentioned a minute ago, with regards to pre-K, I know in Midland, Texas, we can do anything we set our minds to. I know that there's going to be the support for the expansion of CTE programming. I know that there's going to be an abundance of philanthropy out there that's going to assist us when we need some dollars to go make these projects happen. But I had a moment where, even though all of those things are true, I started thinking about, well, yeah, but what about the rest of the campus? What about when we build a new applied technology facility, for example? Well, what do we do with the spaces that we vacated? We need to know more before we start making some big long-range plan. So we did a full facilities audit. It took about 12 years, and we looked at all of the spaces that we had on our campus. We looked at room utilization, and then we made some really clear determinations about program moves, where we needed additional space for specialized programs, specialized heavy industry labs, for example, something that we simply don't have enough of. So we did all of that, and then we began to program a few buildings. And when I say program a few buildings, as an educator, it was it wasn't a foreign concept, but it didn't compute, because when I think of programs, I think of instructional programs. But when you program a building, basically you're designing from the inside out based on your needs. So we had done a full facilities audit. We had launched new programs. So what we started then to do was to look at student demand for programs. What do dual credit students in MISD want and need? What on the other end of that is industry demanding in terms of skill sets? And so we were compiling all the data we could about student demand, traditional, non-traditional, credit, non-credit, and then jobs on the other end. Then looking at what we were doing in terms of our program, instructional programs, tweaking those as necessary, and then trying to align physical spaces with all of the data that we had compiled. And the building programs took about 8 or 10 months, and we we programmed rather an applied technology building, or buildings
Right.
plural. It's actually likely to be 5 or 6 buildings, about 270,000 square feet.
Wow.
And then we programmed a new health sciences building as well. We've since programmed a new conference center. We'd like to be able to have a 400 seat auditorium, a new boardroom. We're going to launch a culinary program. A conference center is a perfect place to do that. Some meeting spaces there as well. We've launched design on an applied technology building and also a health sciences building, and we're getting ready to launch design on a conference center.
Right.
In the midst of all of that, we've also been engaged in a thorough campus master planning process. So since December of last year, again, taking all of the data, all of the studies that we've conducted, all of the feedback that we've gotten from community members and business and industry partners, and put it all together in a campus master plan. We rolled that out actually this week to the Board of Trustees. And then a really exciting thing happened on Tuesday, and this isn't going to shock you. You're probably sitting there thinking whether or not to ask the question I'm about to answer.
Yeah.
And that is that we're going to engage with Pfluger Architects, which is the same firm that MISD utilized for bond exploration.
Right.
And we're going to form a committee to take a look at all the work that we've done and help us prioritize and make a decision as to whether or not we want to ask the Board of Trustees to seek a bond in our community.
Yeah.
And we recognize that we're coming right off a $1.4 billion bond with MISD. There are numerous capital campaigns ongoing through the community. Recognize that there could be some fatigue. But I'm going to tell you, we've done our homework, and we've got all the data to support the work that we're trying to do. And we feel really good about the planning. And now it's a matter of getting the community in the room with us to talk really seriously about what next steps look like and what the future of Midland College looks like. Because again, I think we're right at the center of it. You look at the work of PSP. If you look at the work that MISD is doing, you look at all the projects ongoing in the city. Midland College, in one way or another, is contributing to all of those, whether it's a workforce, whether it's subject matter expertise. We're right in the center of it all. And we feel like our organization is an organization that can really help maintain that momentum in this community that I think a lot of us feel.
Well, you teed it up really nice for me to ask the question, and then you answered it. So I
Yeah.
thought that was great. But there's a great segue into as president, what keeps you up at night?
Well, I'm pretty notorious for my lack of sleep, so a lot of things
Sure.
keep me up at night. But I'll tell you, over the course of the summer, I managed to take a little time away, and the thing that I thought about most while I was gone was about the momentum that we had built over time. How could we maintain that, and at the same time not burn everybody out? Because one of the key pillars, and I haven't mentioned this to this point, but in addition to all the things I just talked about, one of the very first things that we did was to inaugurate a new strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll share, and I've never shared this publicly, but I guess I will now, that for several years I carried around a big fat folder, and I called it, not widely, but I called it the If I Were King folder. And I jotted down all the good ideas I heard. They weren't all my ideas. I might have been in a community session for Priority Midland and heard something that sounded really cool, and I wrote that down.
Yeah.
And over time, I amassed this over an inch thick stack of papers. Some of them were agendas from meetings that I took a few notes, and I thought I might want to revisit this. And when I learned that I got the position, I mentioned that there was a 30, almost 60-day period before I started, but 30-day period where I couldn't tell anybody anything. Well, I dove into that, and I started thinking, well, if these are all of the good ideas, if these were the subjects that continue to come up over time, maybe this is the foundation for what we want to try to do when I'm officially named president and I'm officially able to start the position. And so I put together 7 key pillars of what are now our strategic plan. One of them is access. We're an open access institution. We want to make an impact on people's lives, and so access is our number one pillar. Student success is our number two. And we do that really, really well. We focus a lot of time, energy, resources on student success. World-class technical training is number three. We were talking about CTE a minute ago. I know that's the future of Midland College. I know that's what we all know. That's what the college needs to provide for this community. Collaboration. We don't do anything at the college without the support of our partners. We partner with MISD. We partner with Greenwood ISD. We partner with Midland Health. We partner with our business and industry partners. If you go to our diesel facility, for example, you're going to see a whole wall with Warren Cat on it. And so collaboration is a big part of what we do. Community is a big part of what we do. And I'm going to get back to the original question in just a minute, but I'm going to go ahead while I have a minute and get the rest of this out of here. But in addition to collaboration and community, we focus a lot of time on being a workplace of choice. We want to be an organization where people want to work. And then stewardship, and you'll get tired of hearing me say this over time, but we as an organization recognize that everything we do with someone else's money. And so that's the kind of final key pillar. So the thing that keeps me up at night, to circle all the way back around to your question,
circle back,
is employee health and well-being, frankly.
Wow.
Because I joke often that I think one of my skills is an ability to wind people up really tight, almost to the point of springing, but without springing. I don't want to spring anybody. Yeah. You know, we have so much good work going on at the college. There's so many good people, talented people at the college engaged in what we're doing. And we need to continue that because we have a lot left ahead of us. You know, there's still so much to do. You can't sit back and rest and expect the good things are going to happen. And so finding that balance, I think, is the thing that keeps me up at night. And that's really the main thing, maintaining that momentum, but finding the balance between employee productivity and then health and well-being.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and thank you for being here and sharing with our audience a little bit about you and especially about the college. And I want to wrap things up with two questions that I ask everybody.
Gotcha.
I'm a huge advocate for we determine who we allow to speak into our life, right? I'm a huge advocate on that. So I'm going to ask you, who is it? Is there one person, multiple people that you allow to speak into your life?
You know, the answer for me is family. On the way into this podcast, I was making a call to my daughter, asking about her day because I know she had a stressful day, and mentioned that I was doing this, and she said, "Don't mess it up." And my wife shares anytime I'm in the media the clips of that, and they are my absolute worst critics. But what I love about that is that, one, it reminds me to be humble, but two, it reminds me not to take things too seriously, because I have a tendency to probably be wound myself a little too tight, and I'm not exactly a patient person, and not in a bad way. I like to move with pace. I'm pretty obsessive about setting goals, get a plan going, and let's get moving. And so what they do is they keep me calm. And I give my wife a lot of credit for that too. My wife and my girls, they give me perspective, and they keep me sane.
When it's all said and done, what do you want to be known for?
You know, that's a question I don't think I've ever considered. My gut says if I'm not known for anything, that's probably okay because I didn't screw anything up so bad that people remember me for it.
Yeah.
But if I were allowed to be a little arrogant, I'd probably say I'd like to be known for having launched the next 50 years of Midland College, reinvigorating. We talk about, my shirt actually says reimagine. We talk about reimagining our college. I hope that in this community, that's the way that I'll be remembered. I'll probably be remembered as the guy with the ponytail, though.
Well, that's not too bad to
Yeah.
be remembered that way.
Yeah.
But thank you for your time. Thank you for
Yeah.
what you do for
Well.
Midland College. Thank you for what you do for our community. And I'm grateful to be your friend. And thank you for carving out some time tonight to be here. So
I appreciate
thank you.
it. Yeah.
Damon Kennedy, everyone.
Yeah, been a lot of fun. Thanks.
If you've enjoyed this conversation, like, share, and subscribe on all your social media platforms. Big shout out to Chris over on the controls, Second Story Studio, and you. Thanks for joining with us this week. We'll see you next time.